And I would like to apologize. I understand I was supposed to have something written to the HCU team before the presentation tonight, and I did not get that out there. So I apologize.
All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the second slide, just to give an agenda, and I think Saidi is going to kick us off with that.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. So briefly, we're going to give a brief update on our driver shortage, the main reason why we're all here, and the current activities that are happening in transportation. So just give a brief overview of where we are right now as of today. We also want to review the proposals in front of us. So there was a initial transportation salary schedule evaluation. HSD came forward with a first proposal and offer. There was a counter proposal that was presented by HCU to HSD, and we received that in our last session. Today, HSD would like to present a counter proposal to that proposal. So it's our second offer. We also like to talk about, once the proposals have gone back and forth and we've come to some sort of final decision, what that looks like as far as the ratification of this new salary schedule and the language. And so maybe having a brief discussion on our bylaws and what that means and what we are to expect on both sides. And then talk about next steps, maybe look at dates. So that's just a brief overview of what we're here to talk about this evening.
All right, this is me. And so we've already seen the red light in our 50 drivers down, and that's part of the reason why we're here. And we just are hoping that we can potentially come to some solution tonight in regards to our kind of negotiations. I think we're definitely close and appreciate the conversations. And Carol is going to share some updates on just some of the collaborative efforts that have happened in regards to our working together to address those things as phase 1 and phase 2, and then kind of just the outcomes of that currently. We'll go ahead and go on to the next slide.
Okay, and then just briefly, just to talk about that initial salary schedule evaluation. So as you recall, per the memorandum of agreement, we looked and reviewed at the transportation salary schedule. That was the language in the memorandum at the very bottom. It talked about how both parties were going to begin the process of evaluating and negotiating that transportation salary schedule. So that's where we are right now. We know that all bus drivers are currently on row D, and by the movement of placing all newly hired bus drivers with zero experience at step 1 and moving that to the new step 5, that did have an impact on row E, which was the row just below the bus drivers row, and that primarily impacted our dispatchers, of which we have currently 4 positions in that row. So the proposal that we put forth included both an increase to rows D and E. And so that's what we looked at last time around. So that's just a brief overview of the MOU, the review of the salary schedule, and why we decided to focus on those 2 specific rows.
So just to give you guys some statistics of the impact in our driver recruitment and in our hiring abilities, here's kind of an outline of what the numbers are. So starting from just when we changed or we made the agreement to start hiring at step 5, which was, I think the agreement was on the 19th, but we just went, which was late in the afternoon. So from the 20th, we've actually increased applications. We have received 22, and that's as of today. I can tell you that over the course of the summer, so from when school got out, up until this agreement was made, we had received 6 applicants for the whole summer. So that was a significant increase in a short amount of time. Out of those 22 applications, all 22 were contacted by transportation and to set up interview appointments. We were able to interview 17 of those. We drug tested 14, which is kind of the first step in the process. And we have an additional 2 more that are going to be drug tested tomorrow. Of the tentative offers of employment extended, there was 8 of the 14. There are currently 5 applicants have moved on in that process, and they are in what we call sort of the application, HR application intake, where they come in and they go through the first part of the hiring process with our applications office. Those 5 are also then by this time now working on getting their permits. We currently have 2 drivers in training, and we did have 1 driver become certified out of that initial 22 that started after the 20th of August.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay, I think this is, I have the next couple slides just talking about the proposal. This was our initial proposal. Again, this is kind of a recap for anybody who might be coming to this or the recording later, but it's a lot what Saida already shared in after the schedule evaluation. We brought a proposal that step 5 on row D becoming the new step 1, and 6 through 9 are calculated in alignment with the rest of the schedule, which is 3% per step increase with 4% applied to step 9. So there would be a new step 6 through 9 is significant. And then applying the same methodology to row E with the 4 dispatchers on that row. And so we brought that forward last time and had quite a bit of discussion. And we can move to the next slide, I think. This was, it was more verbal during the bargaining session, and Rob followed up with a salary schedule, and I'm hopeful that I captured all of it in the narrative here, just kind of making sure that we have a good understanding of what the counter offer was. So in addition to the current MOA, step 3 on row B becomes the new step 1. New steps 8 through 9 are calculated in alignment with all of the schedules. That might be 7 through 9, actually, now that I'm thinking about the schedule that Rob presented, but I think you guys get kind of the idea of what the counter offer was. Step 5 on rows C through I become the new step 1. So anyone that would carry a CDL as part of their position would have step 5 be the new step 1. And similarly to the original offer, new step 6 through 9 would be calculated in alignment with all of the schedules. So across the membership with 3% per step and 4% applied to the new step 9. We clarified that employees would stay on their current step, that they wouldn't move down the schedule. They would stay at their current step and experience that full increase. And that this would be retroactive to July 1st, 2022. So I want to take a pause here and make sure with the HCU team that I captured what the counteroffer was.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I have some questions about the 8 through 9 steps and 3, but I think
All right.
that's right.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move to our proposed, we looked at that. We went back and did some more studying of the schedule. We looked at the potential impact to other salary schedules, for example, for our supervisors and managers, and we had to make sure that we weren't creating a conflict in that area. And so this is our offer too. And I do think it's final. I don't think that we'll be coming back with anything additional. We did discuss that as a team, so I just want to put that out there now. in addition to the current MOA, step 5 on rows D and E become the new step 1. So that's the same as our initial proposal, with increase of 3% per step, with 4% applied to step 9. Again, that's the drivers and dispatchers. And then step 2 becomes the new step 1 for all positions on rows C and then F through I. So basically anyone that's required to carry a CDL for their job, the current step 2 becomes the new step 1, and there would be a new step added to the end of the schedule. They would be calculated in alignment as well with all of our other schedules. And again, employees would stay on their current step, and it would be retroactive to July 1st, 2022. So there's a whole lot of similarities in here. We're not extending an increase to transportation assistance at this time. That's not an area that we're concerned about in terms of vacancies, although we do appreciate your advocacy for everything they do to support students and the drivers for sure. So if we move forward, and we're going to make this available to you guys so that you can kick the new schedule around. This is our current schedule slide. Can move one more, Anna. This is the proposed schedule, and you can see even with just moving step 2 to the new step 1, that the step 9 for rows C and F through I it's a significant impact to all of our CDL carriers, along with the drivers and the dispatchers. So one more slide. This is the difference in hourly rate. Just to make sure that you guys have a clear view of what this means per hour for each of these positions impacted by this offer. And then the final grid slide this is the proposed annual change for these positions. It's based on 8 hours. So I know that is different for some folks. It's also based on the current number of calendar days that they have. So it doesn't include any overtime or extra time or summertime or activities. This is just their straight position if they're an 8-hour employee. So it may not represent everybody. But what I wanted to do here is give you guys an idea of the annual impact, because I know as a team, you are thinking about and talking about the distribution of the House Bill 4030 bonus and whether or not to exempt the folks impacted here from that, because it could potentially mean a better distribution for the rest of the membership. And I know that that's a consideration, so I added this slide for you guys to consider. All right, here's an updated slide on the financial impact. It is significant to include those additional folks in the offer. It's kind of pushing us up against the limit of the savings we would realize from the vacancies. So I just want to make sure that you guys had a sense of the impact there. There is a link in the agenda slide that will take you back to our presentation on the 12th. So I just wanted to know that you guys can go back and forth if you feel the need to do that to review prior information. All right. So before we go into questions about our offer 2, these are the next steps and timelines as we see them. So hopefully you guys find this satisfactory as a team, and you will take it to membership for ratification. If that occurs, we're prepared to take this to the school board. We do anticipate full support at this time. And so those are the next few meetings on the books right now. And then of course, for implementation, we need to have it straightened around and all of the information to our payroll team by the 1st of the month in order to process a retroactive payroll. I am going to mute and see if there's any questions for our team on what we brought here tonight.
It's Ignatius' question.
So you were going to check with Rose about whether it could be ratified on the 11th or the 25th of October. What did you get a chance to talk to her?
I haven't had a chance to talk with, I did try to reach out to her, but she has been out. So my plan is to follow up with her tomorrow. I think one of the things too that we will likely have to do is bring also 40/30 to the board to vote on as well, just because of the financial impact. And so if we're looking at both of those things, we would have to bring both things forward. And so I know that we've had special sessions, like during a work session where they move into kind of a regular session to make a decision on things in the past. So if I think there's a need to do that, we would certainly look at trying to align that timeline in as a expedited fashion as we can, that also coordinates with your ratification schedule.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I'm a little, I know that you guys, talk to the board about this. I'm a little surprised to hear you guys say that this is like the last, your kind of like final offer on this. I don't know if I understood that. I mean, I know my team has some concerns about like not giving increases to the aides, not giving increases to some of those upper classifications. I mean, I'd like them to be able to make those points.
We certainly hear what you're sharing in regards to that. And we heard your team last time share, a desire to particularly look at those that were holding a CDL. And we really anchored ourselves to that understanding, that shared understanding of the need to address that. And I also think too, like we've talked about how to utilize the 40/30 if folks that are receiving a compensation through this negotiations, and it's targeted for our bus drivers and folks that are receiving that additional compensation that we agree upon, that looking at our TAs as folks that would be able to have access to the 40/30 potentially. And so that's something, we're also considering. I think one of the things that is the driving mechanism of all of this, Rob, is really, it's really around where do we have a high need? And one of the things that we really look at is data, and that drives a lot of our decision making. And when we're looking at openings, we're seeing, the number 50 when it comes to our bus drivers, but we're not seeing that same number when it comes to our TAs. And so we value all of our employees. We think it's important that in the work that they do, but we also know that the time frame that it takes to start as a TA is quite different than a bus driver. And so I think too that the folks that step into those positions are, spending 6 weeks of time to get trained up to do the work that they need to do. And so we have to make these measured, sometimes difficult decisions. And I just want, our staff to feel that we value everyone, but we're really in a crisis right now. And that's the red zone that we're in when it comes to our folks that are needing to drive the bus. And it is not a requirement of our TAs. That's not something that is required of their responsibilities. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything to what I've shared.
No, I think maybe just reiterating that, yes, we heard loud and clear about those other positions in the department that carry a CDL, and we do value that, and we have made movement in that space. To move any more than step 2 to the new step 1 creates a bunch of compression, and like you mentioned before, Rob, in terms of what we need to do for, not what we need to do, but where our managers and supervisors are placed, which creates a whole nother challenge outside of this group. So being super sensitive to that, but still wanting to acknowledge that, yes, the CDL is a value. We want to honor that and keep those folks in their roles and make sure that they are feeling that in that impacted C and then F through I, and it didn't impact the transportation assistance. And I know that Saida has been monitoring very closely vacancies across all of the transportation schedule, and can maybe speak a little bit more to the vacancies. I'm sure Carol can too, having to deal with that on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think we talked about this the last time as well. The number of vacancies, I believe at the time we had 3 openings. We had actual assistants that were working at the school apply for positions as transportation assistants, and filling those positions have never been an issue with the district. So the remaining positions will be filled in a timely manner over the next month or so. We're certain of that. That is not the case with our bus drivers. And so I don't think there's any more to reiterate. I think both Kana and Michelle have spoken to what our rationale behind putting this forward as our final offer, and honestly, a very reasonable offer based on all the information that Michelle put together for your team to review.
Thank you. And just another side note, this is a permanent change. This isn't a one, like this is a permanent change to hopefully impact us and get us back into the green zone by the beginning of school year next year. I mean, it's going to take that long for that to happen. So I'm hoping that all of the HCU team here can see that as a value that would benefit all members and not just the drivers who are getting the most movement.
So just a clarifying question. The last time we met, I think I remember being told that there were no transportation assistant vacancies. And Saida, did you just say that you're expecting vacant ones to fill within the next month? So are there now vacancies in transportation assistants?
I don't believe I said that. I believe there were 5 vacancies and we had filled 2, so we have 3 currently.
Okay, because I thought I remember the last 3 openings were filled by SCAs out of the classrooms.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, because that's what I remember. So,
I'm glad you asked that question, Melody, because I think sometimes I always feel like when we're on Zoom or in these virtual meetings, it's sometimes I'm missing some things too. So I appreciate you asking that question, and hopefully that brought a little clarity that we do still have some openings, but not to the degree and of our bus drivers.
no, I don't think, even if we did have, you know, the vacancies that we do have or did have in transportation assistance, I know it's not to the degree of the drivers. And I don't think anybody in here thinks that's the case. What we are hearing though, is that people that are holding CDLs, they're going out and they're driving these routes, and their work, the mechanics, let's see, the mechanics, I guess maybe the mechanics, the dispatchers, the trainers, the routing liaisons, they're going out and driving these routes, but their work is remaining. So either they're working overtime, and granted, yes, they're getting paid extra for working overtime. I'm not gonna like, not look at that. However, their work is still staying there. They can't push it off their plate because they're doing somebody else's work. And so to only move them up 1 position, just to avoid wage compression, I'm having a hard time understanding that reasoning. They're just, I just know they're not going to be happy, and I'm just afraid we're going to be right back here in a couple of years to look at transportation assistance when they start. And I know historically it doesn't say that, but when they start, wanting to leave or go back into the classrooms, if that's the case, or Maybe the mechanics will move over and drive a bus, but then we'll be without mechanics to keep the buses running. I just think that if we start dividing departments up, it's going to have a negative impact on not only that department, but other departments.
Also kind of compressing the wages between, you know, the drivers, the trainers, the mechanics. So, and I think I mean, I certainly heard some frustration on behalf of my team that they kind of felt like they thought we had at least an idea, you know, at least a supposal around, you know, that we heard last time your guys, you know, sort of what you guys were pushing back on was the idea of giving non-CDL people increases. And we thought we had at least a basic agreement on giving everyone else increases that were, you know, commensurate with what we were giving the drivers. So I certainly heard some frustration about the fact that that isn't true. That we're, you know, and we understand what you guys are saying about compression with supervisors, but we also have the same, you know, the same frustrations about compression between drivers and, you know, and everyone who's sort of above them. It's going to be making it a lot closer to them.
I hear what you're saying, Rob and Melody, and I understand that, you know, sometimes when we're sitting in these spaces, like we're all tired. And so I know sometimes I have to really pay attention for me. So I'm making sure that my words are clear. But I think one of the things is that we understood your desire to want to make sure that there was a positive impact in the sense of like us looking at the salary schedule for everyone who held a CDL. We certainly went and looked at that. And I think one of the things that's a difference between a classified hourly employee and a supervisor is that a supervisor can never earn overtime because they're in a I just learned about exempt and non-exempt employees this week. And so when you're in that role, you will never be able to earn more compensation than what your salary rate is based on that point, that compensation point. One of the things that we've always offered is extended contract overtime for our classified employees because we value their time. And we really try to have our supervisors work with folks like, you know, if you have to drive the bus and then you're having to do this project, you're going to be compensated for that. But there is a conversation that happens in regards to those things so that there is compensation. And part of our job too is to look at that and see, okay, is there compensation being used for overtime? And so there certainly is compensation that's being afforded folks in the hourly rate. And that will continue also when we get these positions filled. People will still have access to overtime and they will utilize that. And I think you know, we have a responsibility to look at the whole system and look at what we can do. And, you know, you guys probably get tired of me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway, that we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And I know that there are some disappointments because we have our skin in the game too, and we want to get things going, and you have your skin in the game and you want to get things going, and you need to advocate for folks, and you're trying to do that. And that's what you're doing. You're doing your due diligence on that. But we also have to hold the tension. It's like this tug of war. We have to kind of like hold the tension of like making sure that we're making sound decisions, especially when it comes to finances, because we're held accountable to the board looking at these things. And they are, you know, in favor, and they would vote to approve the focus on our bus drivers and that hard to fill position, you know. And so Michelle and I have done our due diligence to keep them up to speed on things, and then also address, you know, the things that you've brought forward, because it's important to share those pieces too. I don't want you to think that we're just kind of not mindful of that and not hearing what you have to say, because that's important. I think it's important to hear those things, and we have to take that into consideration, and then we have to come forward with some kind of, they wouldn't call it a counter proposal unless it was a counter. And so we have to counter in some way, and that's what we did tonight. We tried to look at it, and we spent time last week kind of really looking through all of the things. And I wish you could have been flies on the wall to see what we were talking about, maybe just to understand our thinking behind what we were presenting today. So it wasn't just a flash in the pan kind of decision. There's a lot of thought and a lot of energy that's put into what we're proposing, so that we feel like we're honoring your time and your ideas and trying to bring that in. Now I'm chasing people off with my words. Just kidding. All right, I feel like I've kind of talked enough. Are there any other thoughts or questions that you have?
Yeah, I guess it's just some frustrations we had. I mean, we do recognize that you guys have moved off of what your initial proposal is. It's a little hard to sort of be in bargaining and be kind of told that this is your sort of final offer. Yeah, does my team have other points that they want to make?
I was just curious if you're concerned at all about losing transportation assistance in response to wage increases for everyone else in their department.
I think
Certainly.
that that's, oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, Sadie.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I think that it can be packaged in a way with the House Bill 4030, so that they are still seeing a bonus and they are seeing an increase, because they're not going to be impacted by the proposal that we brought here to you guys tonight. So that's something as a team. I don't know if that's a consideration, but from my perspective, this is a great way to leverage those funds and potentially gain membership in the transportation department, because this is a really big deal, what we brought here tonight. I feel like maybe I should have gone through the slides more slowly, but that hourly increase, that is a jump. That's not a little bit of movement. And I feel like maybe your guys' team needs to spend a little bit of time kind of digging into that and kind of seeing the impact of that at the hourly level, at the annual level. And that it is permanent. Like there's going to be movement on top of that just as soon as next year. So I feel like it's maybe just needs a little closer look and more discussion on your team's behalf about how to package it in a way that more people win than just the people that are impacted by this schedule. Because I've run some preliminary figures, and if we pull the impacted folks out from this schedule, that could be an increase as much as $80 per full-time person. And that, for House Bill 4030, and that's quite an impact. And I know you guys don't have the data that I have access to and the numbers I'm looking at, but that is significant. That's not just a little bit. So we've heard again and again how challenging it is right now out there in the community, especially for our classified staff members, especially because they're short-staffed with drivers. And we're really just hoping to partner with you guys and get this wrapped up into membership in a way that it can be ratified. I'll be quiet.
No, I appreciate the work that you have put into this data. And no, we see the significant increase for the drivers and the dispatchers. And we understand that it's permanent changes, retro back to July 1. Our minds, I think, go back to the last increase when Rob first joined us and we were sitting at transportation and we were trying to get increases, and drivers were the only ones that got the increase then at 3% across the board. And what we heard when that went to ratification, as they came filing through our office, what about us? When do we get looked at? And this was not just transportation assistance. this was other classifications. And we told them at the time that it was a significant drop in drivers. We needed to get drivers here. We were really short drivers. We told them all the things that were true, and we sold it. I mean, we told them we told them what was happening, because that's what was happening. And it's happening again. And we're back here again because drivers are short. And well, I think we're going to hear the same thing. So unless we look at F through I or transportation assistance a little closer to see if there's what we can do for them, I think we're going to have the same conversations that we had last time. And I don't know what else to say, because we're saying the same things over and over again. Transportation assistants want to feel valued because they are valuable employees. They provide a service on this bus that the drivers really need. So Kira, you had something else to say? Because I think I'm just going to keep saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I want to make sure I understand something you said, Michelle. So when you're talking about the House bill, money from the House bill for transportation assistance, my understanding of that was that it's a like one-time retention bonus. Is that correct? Okay, so we're looking at a one-time retention bonus for them and then a permanent salary increase for all of the other. Okay.
And this is supposed to be the one-time retention bonus that we're going to take to the people that a month ago, when we were sitting here trying to come up with the MOA, we were told that we are going to renegotiate transportation wages. Oh, except you. I'm sorry, we're not going to go with the transportation assistance. But we have this other thing that we're planning to come up with in the future. Trust us on this one.
Scott,
Scott,
you sound upset. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what's going on here. We're telling people that we're going to renegotiate transportation wages. And then when we get into transportation wage negotiation, we're cutting out half of our employees, but we're going to promise them something else, that we're going to kick this can down a little ways so that we can promise them something else in the future.
I don't think that that was our intention when we signed the MOA. Our intention was to look at the overall schedule. That is true. And determine where we needed to look at adding additional wages based on we were really going to be targeting bus drivers. And then when we had our conversation, last time, we talked about those carrying a CDL. And so we brought that into what we were looking at this time. So I sense in your voice that you're upset, and I'm sorry about that. And, you know, we're not here to cause additional frustration for anyone. And I know Rob has shared that, you know, folks are frustrated. And I'm sorry for that. I think we're really trying to come here to try to problem solve and to try to address what we can regarding where our staffing shortages are. And I appreciate you sharing that, because, you know, I think it goes back to that piece of like, you know, what intention, perception, and impact. And those things really play out in how we sense what's going on and what's going to happen. And I also know that you guys have to carry things forward. And so if that was something that came across like we were going to make changes to everything in the transportation schedule, I am deeply sorry, because that was not my intention or our intention. So I'm very sorry if that was taken away. And I can see why you would be very frustrated. I probably would be frustrated as well.
Wording that we were told. We will renegotiate transportation. It was said in front of the entire transportation department. And that's what people that I have to go back and face tomorrow were under the understanding that we are here to renegotiate transportation.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because I thought there was something that I said in particular. Carol, you were going to share something?
Gotta get my button straight here. I think, I was thinking about what Melody was talking about too, is that I think that part of the struggle with his whole driver situation and it is just within the industry. When you look back, when we met the first time, and talked about just the driver thing, we were right on the edge of getting into this total national driver shortage. And I can tell you, in all the years that I've been here, and you guys know I've been here longer than dirt, but this driver shortage is beyond anything that we've encountered. And it's not just bus drivers. I mean, you guys know TriMet, truck drivers, everybody. I mean, we're even running into it right now with some of the athletic secretaries who are trying to arrange charters for stuff, and they can't even get charters because they're short of buses. And it's like this phenomenal peak thing where it's like we get here and we think, okay, this is the worst it can get. And so then we get this agreement and we get up here, and then COVID happens and all this other stuff and the inflation and the workforce shortage. And it's just like we can never peak. And we're constantly trying to get in front of it. And we just haven't been successful. And I think that we are going to continue to be challenged, until we can get to a place within the industry, it taps off. And I don't know when that's going to be, because if you had said to me a year ago, we were going to be in the position we're in now with the amount of shortage that we have right now, I would have never believed that. I would have never believed that we would be here again doing this. And I think for all of us, I mean, and even though from my perspective, working with upper administration within the district and even on this piece is trying to explain what's happening in the industry, that I think no matter what we do and where we are, when we take this, we reach an agreement and we take this to your folks, it's going to be a lot of education and trying to help people understand, because I'm in the industry, I'm in it every day, 10 hours a day, and I don't understand why we continue to struggle when we're trying to do everything that we can. And, I don't know what the answer is, but I know, and I truly believe we're on the right path. I also think that we have to remember that, as much as I hate to say this, within a less than a year, it will be time to start renegotiating the next contract, which boggles my mind. And so I think there's going to be opportunities to look at this again. And I know that that's not a comfort to the person who isn't getting the additional wage right now. But we are truly at this crossroads where it's like, how do we continue to provide the service for students if we can't get ourselves dug out of a hole? And that's where we are. And that's just where we are. There's nothing that I think any of us can do about that. And Scott, I think, just asked question, do you know how many mechanics we are short and how long we have been looking to replace them? So right now we were down 3. 2 are because of retirees. One of the positions that is open is because I actually got additional mechanic positions. So in theory, if you just look at retirees, it's 2. We do have one right now that we are in the process of, we just interviewed a young guy. So, you know, he still got to go through the hiring process and the drug test. But as long as we can get the drug test, I think he will be a great addition.
Thanks, Carol. Melody, you have your hand raised, and then I'd like to share something after you, please.
Oh, well, go ahead and share, because I was just gonna say, well, maybe my team should go back into our caucus room and have a discussion over there. But go ahead and share, and then we can go after that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we spent a lot of time doing a salary study together back, and that was a part of our negotiations for the 2018-21, and we spent time collaboratively together to try to have pre-pandemic a competitive salary, and it felt like we created a competitive salary, and we added an additional step, and then we didn't predict this pandemic. And so there's just a lot of things that are coming out. And for every job out right now, there's like 1.6 jobs for every person. So we could work. There's lots of work out there. And so I think that's another thing that, we're trying to address in a really targeted way. So I wanted to say thank you for the work that we did together to try to get a competitive salary. And I'm sorry that we're here at the same place again. I feel like it's Groundhog's Day, like that movie, like Bill Murray, and he wakes up every morning to the same song, and he wants a different song. He wants to experience different things, but he's experiencing, the same situation. So, I appreciate the conversation tonight. I know that it's hard, and I'm sorry that we're here. And I do know we have past history of collaborating. We have past history of coming to resolution, and I know that we will do that one way or another. It just may be a little bit different than what we're all thinking. But yes, I think you guys having some caucus time probably would be good. And then, do you want a copy of our presentation? Would that be helpful? So you can look at that.
Yes, please.
Michelle, I don't know if you want to add any notes, because I know some of those pieces on there are for 8 hours, and I just I added that to that one section for the annual salary. If you want to share the PDF.
Yeah, I can do that.
Should we share it with one person from your team, or try to share it with everyone? But we'll just use your I think we have Rob and Melody's HEA address, but we'll use maybe everyone else's HSD address, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But it's HCU address.
Mhm.
HCU, I apologize.
I mean, and I'm AFT, so it's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm HSD.
It's okay. It's late.
Okay.
Okay, so let us
Okay.
caucus.
And
I'll send you a
Michelle-
text message.
Hannah, can you make the PDF and send it to one person? That way okay. Sounds good.
All right, guys. So we'll see you in just a little.
Yep.
See you
over.
shortly.
Thanks.
I think we need a little more time. You know, my team has some frustrations. We've sort of voiced them. But we also kind of want to look through the proposal so that we make sure we understand it on the one hand. And then if there are some creative ideas that we might have to bring to you guys, we'd like to do that. I mean, would it be possible for us to get back together at some point next week?
Preferably later in the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna at least have to be.
Thursday.
Yeah, I have pretty good availability on Thursday.
Are we thinking like an hour of time, or are we thinking like 2 hours? Because that would be a factor for me.
I don't exactly know how long it will take. I'd love to be able to get through it in an hour. I guess it depends on when we can meet.
So Thursday, it would have to be 5:15. I was also thinking if there are questions that you have that you could reach out to Michelle, like we've done in the past when we bargained, to follow up, and maybe that would help.
Yeah, I mean, it's potential that we could even like float an idea to you guys over email, but I mean, we could plan on an hour next week. I mean, I get it. I'm juggling stuff, nighttime meetings, other nighttime meetings, and trying to do stuff with family too. It's definitely not ideal, but I feel like we do need a little more time together because we need to be able to communicate this to the team. I mean, we need to be able to communicate this with not just transportation, but HCU as a whole too. If we, if we want this to pass. So do you think we could meet like an hour next Thursday night?
I would say tentatively, yes. Because I think we at least have a date. But I think we would probably have to keep it to an hour. And if we can do some things in between now and next Thursday, I think that hopefully will help. If there are questions that you have in regards to what we've put together for Michelle or anything like that, then you can, type those questions or ask those questions. And then hopefully that will help.
Yeah,
Is the rest of the team available next Thursday?
Melody, don't you see everyone's excitement?
I do.
They are. Let's just go ahead and plan. Or can we, does it have to be 5:15? Because that's why I think we were starting later, just so everyone could get home and get to where they needed to.
Well, it was because of Scott and Lori getting off their routes.
Right. So we would start at 5:15. Okay.
Yes.
5:15 to 6:15.
Because I don't think them getting union releases. Carol. She's trying not to laugh. 2 drivers on union release next Thursday. I got a small chuckle out of some people.
okay, cool. So
Okay.
we'll leave it at that. We'll see you guys next Thursday, and we'll reach out if we have any questions. I want to get back together with my team, make sure that we have a chance to get together between now and then.
Okay.
Right.
All right. We will talk soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
I hope everyone has a great evening. And I think Carla's probably going to have the best evening of all, getting to watch a baseball game.
Soccer, isn't it?
Or is it soccer?
Soccer.
Well, that sounds fun too. All right. Thank you all for your time.
Yes, thank
And,
you.
We'll put that market, save the date, and we'll connect then.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.